a curse and a blessing. First you go, then I go. Tell me where to and it's okay. No pressure if you don't stay. It's a curse and a blessing. First you go, then I go. Tell me where to and it's okay. No pressure if you don't stay. You can tell me, close your eyes if you feel me. It's between you and me, girl. Like, but really care what you guys say. I won't melt in the summer. I won't change with the weather. Go outside with the visor. Shine your light in the...
In this video, we're going to be flying a Merlin with 150s and a mag stab. The 150s will allow us to have about 8.5k range with antimatter and give us about 100 damage at that range, which will be pretty nice. In order to actually track the targets, even at that range, we need to use dual webs, scram, and AB to actually keep a good range control on the target to apply our damage. For our tank, we're going to be using 2 hull rigs, an ancillary armor repair, and an AUG's nano pump to boost the ancillary repair's rep amount. We're also going to be using a damage control to boost the resistances in our hull, as well as our armor. That Navy Comet slides on us and we have the initial range control, which is a pretty big advantage, but he also has 3 light drones that he can send out after us, and he also has the potential of loading null into his blasters. At this point we can see, based off of our ranges and our ability to keep our range, that we have range control in this situation, and that he can't pull close for higher damage ammunition and limit our actual application.
No, you don't need it as much as you used to, do you? You didn't think that I noticed it, did you? But I did. Yeah, since
we have range control on this Comet, he doesn't seem to be able to apply to us, while we have near perfect application on him. This fight's just a matter of time until we win.
Held you high when you're lonely, the guy you call when you're down. Remember when it was only me you'd want on the line, the one I trusted and owned.
Around here we dip into the Comet's structure as he runs out of ancil phase, so he can't tank us anymore.
Maybe I believe I'm alright. Maybe I believe I'm fine. Maybe I believe I'm alright. Maybe I believe I'm fine. Maybe I believe I'm alright. Maybe I believe I'm fine.
It's a highly unconventional Comet fit. He makes a lot of sacrifices here in order to fit both a 400 plate and a small ancillary armor repair. There's a lot of armor buffer along with the ancil, where usually you see transverse bulkheads along with the ancil. In this fight we slide on a breacher. Every time we see a breacher we expect a dual tank breacher with a medium ancillary shield booster and a small ancillary armor repair. This breacher gives us a really good opportunity to test both our range control abilities against a hull with a high base speed and our ability to actually break the dual tank of a breacher. Around here we start looking for our line out. The pilot we're up against is doing a lot of damage to our ship, so he's probably got some Nova loaded to hit straight into our resist hull, which is going to be explosive for the armor. Generally, when a ship with rockets tries to engage a Merlin, we can expect them to be using some EM ammo. However, we do take all this footage while we're also simultaneously streaming, so we do get a lot of people coming in from the stream who know our fit, who actually use proper ammo types against our fit. We can see that this pilot actually ended up using some Inferno, which is not a very amazing choice. It's nearly as good as our EM Resist. The proper choice probably would have been Nova to bring us down extra bit. We slide a gate on the Kestrel. We're expecting either an armor-tanked rocket dual web Kestrel for the range control, or a Kestrel with rockets and a medium shield extender. We're very surprised to find out that the Kestrel actually has a medium ancillary shield booster here. It surprises us here to see that he's actually repairing back some armor, so he's probably has an ancillary armor repair. So we actually now need to focus on killing him before he manages to get a reload off on his ancillary shield booster by elongating his life with his armor repair. So here we see we're right about the bid. He does have a dual tanked medium ancillary shield booster and a small ancillary armor repair. It's a interesting fight, interesting little fit here. In this fight we slide on an Incursus. We're expecting a Scram Web and Sil Incursus, or it can be a Scram Dual Rep Incursus. We notice that when he locks us up, he didn't actually apply a scram, so we check by hovering over the module, and we see that he actually has 2 webs, so he's going to apply to us really well. And lo and behold, this Incursus starts hitting us like an absolute truck, and we can't do anything about it. Considering the situation at hand, there's really nothing we can do except for try to make him escape here, since he doesn't actually have a scram, so that's exactly what we do. In this fight, we engage a Tormentor on the outside of a Plex gate. There's 2 ways this can go down. He is either a Pulse Fit or a Beam Fit. If he's a Pulse Fit, then we can definitely mitigate some damage, but if he's a Beam Fit, he's going to hit us pretty hard, and there won't be much we can do. Based on his massive application, and the absence of purple laser effects coming off of his ship, we know he's not using a Scorch, and he's still hitting us really well, so he's definitely Beam Fit. In this engagement, another Merlin slides on us. It turns out that he is actually an Afterburner Blaster fit based off of his speed and lack of damage application that he's actually doing here. At this point, we realize that his missed notifications have stopped coming in, and the only real reason for this to happen is that he's not cycling his guns because he's reloading to null. Here he finishes what we assume is a null reload, and he's applying damage, but it's not nearly enough to actually bring us down. Here we see that he got the null reload off. However, since we're at 7.5 to 8k, he can't hit us even with the null. Here we have an executioner sliding the gate on us. An interesting thing about these T1 tackle frigates is that they have a high base speed, so they can easily scram web kite or scram web brawl. However, we can negate his natural speed advantage by simply having our dual webs on him. This is an interesting take on the T1 tackle frig meta. What you usually see more often is a warp disruptor and a web paired with long-range guns, and they'll tend to try and kite around 14 to 17 kilometers. In this clip we have the Atron, another T1 tackle frigate, coming in on us. He seems to immediately settle into an auto orbit, which is good for us, as when we get too far away from the target, he's going to end up just approaching us anyway, lowering his transversal to nothing. We can really quickly see this as his tank starts to melt faster than a suspect pollard on the Jeddah Undog. This Atron seems to have been going for the same thing as the Executioner before, where he's taken the extra step of loading some null, which gave us a nice little fight there. We see a Kite Condor's trying to slide us, so we immediately want to preheat our prop. As soon as we see him hit our overheat link, we immediately want to activate our prop mod and approach him. As soon as he's lockable, we start locking him and pre-activate our scram and dual webs, hoping that we can keep him from pulling off of us. He pulls a lot of range very fast, however we are able to land our scram and dual webs. He does break our scram momentarily, but we have to keep heating that prop into him and reapply the scram as fast as possible. After you've caught your standard issue kite ship, you want to pull into a closer range so you can deheat your modules so that you don't accidentally burn one of them out. At this point, once you've caught the ship and you have total control over the fight, there's really nothing that they can do against you. This is a pretty standard fit for a Kite Condor. I'm guessing that he switched to tracking speed disruption script to try and get under my guns once he realized that he was caught. Usually, you would have the optimal range script loaded so that your targets have a much harder time hitting you out at the range you want to kite at. A Republic Fleet Firetail slides on my Plex. Generally, I would expect an artillery dual web fit, in which case he'd have range control over me, and also the application ability to apply out to my range. I determined that this is not his fit based on two things. Both, he is not dual webbing me and he does not have range control in this fight, and the fact that his damage notifications are coming in way too close together to be artillery, which tends to cycle very slow. Around this point, we notice that our Alpha clone with very poor cap skills is going to be having cap issues in this fight due to its length. In order to counter this, we're deciding to allow ourselves to dip into hull a little bit more and not perma-cycle our Ansil so that we can win the war of attrition here. This is a very odd triple tanked fit where we have a medium shield extender 2 for some shield buffer, a small ancillary armor repairer for some armor rep, and a damage control 2 along with 3 small transverse bulkheads to add a lot of buffer in the hull. Here we slide on a Tristan in the warp, and it's very important to note that he is actually sitting right on the warp end, And from this we can actually determine that he is a Brawl Tristan. So he's going to want to be close to us, so we're going to want to pull range as soon as possible. You can also see from his applied statuses that he is in fact a new Tristan. This is very bad for us, as we're an alpha clone. Our capacitor is going to be very poor. You've actually pulled range past the Tristan's Newt's effective range. However, the Newt Alpha that he's done is still going to give us some problems. Based off this fit, it's very possible that this is a fellow Alpha clone. I say this due to the T1 drones in the cargo, and the cap booster to help his capacitor out while he's snooting me out. In this fight we slide a gate on another Tristan. It's important to note that when we slide this gate, this Tristan is orbiting the warp-in at a fair range of about 20. Unless this guy makes a massive piloting error, the only way that we're actually going to survive this is killing off his drones, so that becomes our win condition. Luckily, our dual webs allow for really good application to these drones. The Tristan pilot realizes that he won't be able to bring us down with us killing off his drones, so he decides to disengage and warp off. In this fight, a dual tank breacher slides in on us. We have the initial range control, which is helpful. He's applying to our shields really well, but the damage slows way down when he gets into armor. This tells me he probably has some form of Mjolnir EM ammo loaded. Here we can see the breacher made the mistake of having his drones auto-aggress onto the rat instead of on me. Thanks, dude. Things start looking really grim for us here as we're dipping through hull and we do not have enough cap to run our ancil. Really good fight here. Turns out we were correct about him using the Mjolnir ammo. As soon as he saw our first rep cycle, he should have probably changed to Nova, then he definitely would have won that fight. When flying this fit, it's important to remember a few things. First off, the dual webs, they're there for both range control and application. The second thing to note about this fit is that newts are very bad. They can affect your range control, your tank, and your guns. Third, when we're engaging a target by sliding them and they're looking to brawl, it's very important to be quick with your module management and pull out the target with your afterburner as soon as possible, locking them up and applying your range controls to limit their damage. And lastly, we want our keep-it range to be set to 7.5 kilometers. This is the distance that I've found will give you your greatest application, while still limiting most targets' application against you. Lastly, I'd like to give a special thanks to the Blood Raid for giving me the idea for this fit. As always, thank you for watching, and fly dangerous.